Moo for me!
Moo!
Louder!
Moo!
Louder!
Moo!
Louder!
Moo!
Disney's latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain Marvel does not live up to its name. But I'm a white male, so my opinion is unwanted, apparently. Alright, that is an exaggeration of what Brie Larson actually said, but the implication is still that my opinion is somehow less valid than other people's. But f*** you, I'm going to offer it anyway. So it's finally here. Almost a year since that brief teaser at the end of Infinity War, and aside from that moment of glory that was seeing Brie Larson punching an old woman in the face, we've had to endure sexism controversy after sexism controversy, and clickbait article after clickbait article hammering home that this is the first female-fronted Marvel movie. Hey guys, did you know that this is the first female-fronted Marvel movie? Did you? Did you? Did you? Why not? If the hype train is to be believed, Captain Marvel is a revolution in female representation in cinema, with a kick-ass female lead that all women can relate to and all little girls can aspire to. Forgetting that Wonder Woman was, you know, a thing. DC beat you to it, and their marketing department has already milked those teats for all they were worth. But oh no, Disney has to have their own slice of the vagina pie. At least Wonder Woman kept this agenda to a minimum within the film itself, but Captain Marvel has turned it up to 11 with obvious pandering messages written into the film itself and disguised as the female experience. Don't you think it's a little bit odd to try to convey the female experience in a film about a superhero who flies around space shooting plasma out of her arms? But that's what they've done. They've made a superhero movie political, and deciding whether or not to go and see it has become a political act, as people on both sides pile on to either express their disdain for these divisive and alienating tactics, or to froth at the mouth with devotion, imagining that by seeing the movie, they're somehow contributing towards the cause of feminism, instead of just further lining Disney's already bloated pockets. Because that's what this is really about, getting more booties on seats. Don't let them fool you. It's Black Panther all over again. That was a generic superhero movie with questionable writing and dodgy special effects that used political marketing to get itself lauded as an Oscar-worthy masterpiece just because it had African people being African. And if you didn't fall for that gimmick, you're a racist. And if you don't like Captain Marvel, you're a misogynist. Why do you think they released it worldwide on International Women's Day? Very subtle. These sort of tactics are inevitably the sign of a mediocre movie trying to paper over its cracks and trick audiences into forking out their cash. So what about Captain Marvel? Is it 2019's most radical film? No, it's really not. Brie Larson plays Veer, a member of an elite group of warriors fighting for the Kree, who are
a race of noble warriors.
Heroes. Noble warrior heroes.
That's not conceited at all. She gets sent on a rescue mission, which goes badly, and she ends up on Earth in the mid-90s, having to fight against the Skrull, another alien race with the ability to take on the appearance of anyone they encounter, a quest which intertwines with her own search for her forgotten past. It's an origin story, which is hardly refreshing because all it does is harken back to a few years ago when the market was saturated with them and we all got bored. There are some issues with the plot and inconsistencies in how things work, and some things that make no sense or are really dumb, which I won't get into here because I don't want to spoil anything, and the story has a few issues with pacing, but generally it's okay. But a lot of its elements have been recycled from previous Marvel movies, and other superhero movies in general. This holds the movie back and prevents it from standing out from any other in its genre. There's even a dogfight in a canyon, for fuck's sake. How many of those have we seen before? The big twist is predictable if you've seen more than one film in your life, and I found the final battle overly short and extremely anticlimactic, because by that point she'd gone Super Saiyan and was nigh on indestructible. It did look good though, and the visual effects are stellar throughout, with none of the egregious eyesores found in Black Panther. Brie Larson gives a decent performance with what she was given, but her considerable acting skills aren't really done justice by a character who lacks depth and is given about as much in the way of development as an unvaccinated child. The result is that we aren't given much reason to care about her character aside from the role we know she'll play in the events of Endgame. The rest of the acting isn't great. Samuel L. Jackson gives the film a much needed boost as a younger Nick Fury, and his digital de-aging is pretty convincing, although the story the film gives for the loss of his eye is really lame.
What?
Really?
The chemistry between this odd couple doesn't always work, but there are a decent amount of good laughs to be had here. The problem is that despite the repeated assertions that her character is funny, and her many attempts at quips, the vast majority of the humour comes from the other characters, almost all of whom are more charismatic and likeable than her. The biggest laughs came from a cat. A f***ing cat. Pussy power indeed. Like I said earlier, the politics has intruded into the script itself. There's a few very on-the-nose bits of dialogue, only one of which didn't feel out of place. At one point, a little girl even says, "You should consider the kind of example you're setting for your daughter." F*** off, movie. Stan Lee's posthumous cameo kinda makes sense. It's convincing at least. It was nice of him to come back from the dead to give the film a shout out too. Seriously though, why did you do this, you tasteless c***s? There's also a fair bit of shameless nostalgia pandering. When she crashes to Earth, she lands in the middle of a blockbuster video. Remember that, guys? This, as well as a bunch of other references and a soundtrack full of 90s bangers, serve to trick you into thinking you're enjoying the movie. The thing is, Captain Marvel is not a bad movie. At the end of the day, it's another Marvel movie, and a below average one at that. There's nothing special about it. The whole experience felt very underwhelming. It feels like exactly what it is, an origin story slotted between two major crossovers. If you like Marvel, you might enjoy it, but it isn't worth watching more than once. Is it a 1 out of 10 movie? No, that's ridiculous. But neither is it a 10 out of 10. Like, are you f***ing kidding me? Of course there are trolls, but there are also shills, who are giving this movie positive reviews because they're invested in its politics, or because they don't want to lose their seat at the early access club.
Every single person that wants to have access to things early, that wants to get access to things so that traffic is drawn to their site, will, on occasion, everybody at this podcast, everybody in our industry occasionally has to play softball, occasionally has to, you know, look the other way a little bit. Everybody has to do it.
Wait, we're turning what? Like a movie that's
in the sense that, you know, I hated a movie, but I won't say that I hated the movie. Or an actor behaved a sort of way, and you don't want to, you know, put it out there that happened.
Right, because you might not get the next review,
right.
next gig.
So to some degree, everybody in our industry that is a part of this quote-unquote access media has to sort of decide which battles they want to pick.
You know when something truly rotten is up when Rotten Tomatoes gets caught deleting tens of thousands of user reviews, accusing them of being trolls or bots, and this only affects the user score by 3%. And I know what some of you are thinking. CJ, you don't like it because you have a penis. I'm gonna stop you right there. There are plenty of women who also think this film is mediocre, so you can shut your flaps. One of my favourite films is Aliens, whose protagonist, Ellen Ripley, is an absolute badass, and which manages to make parallels to and explore themes of motherhood and empowering femininity without trying to smack you in the face with its dildo. More recently, Alita Battle Angel is doing a much better job of supplying a strong female lead for women to enjoy. Don't get me wrong, that film has its problems, but at least it tries to stand on its own merits, rather than focusing on the fact that she has meat curtains. Or doesn't in this case, but you know what I mean. Alita is also proof that no one actually cares about films having female leads. What audiences actually care about is when a film uses the fact that it has female leads as an excuse to get away with being crap, and tries to morally shame everybody who criticizes it for being crap. People reacted badly to Ghostbusters 2016 because the trailer was garbage, an insult to the intellectual property it was exploiting, and because the film itself wasn't much better. The Last Jedi got slated because its writing was god-awful, and ruined by its obvious need to promote a faux feminist agenda. Ocean's 8 was panned because it was an unfunny, lazy rehash, and not because its critics were white men, and people have reacted so strongly to Captain Marvel because they're tired of the needless, forced politicization of films based on beloved IPs. But no, dismiss the critics as sexists, trolls, man-babies, whatever you want to do, because it's easy. It makes you feel better about yourselves, and it's less effort than writing something good. F*** all of us for wanting a movie to just be good, am I right? When did this become acceptable? When did people decide that it's okay for a film to be mediocre simply because it's diverse? When did people decide that they can't relate to the characters on screen because they don't share the same genitalia or skin pigment? Even Will Smith is now getting it in the neck for not being black enough. When is this shit going to end? You want to give little girls something to aspire to? Make a good movie and then put female characters in it. Write interesting, strong female leads that fit naturally into the story. Don't excuse terrible writing or reduce your standards simply because you're making something diverse. Stop using divisive identity politics to market your movies, and stop cashing in on feminism to pad out your purses while contributing absolutely nothing towards alleviating problems that women actually have to deal with. And do not start asking the government to intervene because people are giving you bad reviews, you absolute pussies. Again, Captain Marvel isn't a terrible film, but strip away the politics and it's a mediocre experience. The only reason I can give for you to go and see it is so you know who the hell she is when you watch Endgame next month. But even then, you won't be missing much if you skip it. The movie does give a brief but passable explanation as to why she's been absent during the rest of the MCU, and an inter-credit scene has her showing up just after the events of Infinity War. But since she's being established as the most powerful hero in the MCU by far, I can only hope that she doesn't just fly in and floor Thanos with a single punch, before giving him a lecture about manspreading or some other bullshit. But what does it matter? You're probably never going to get to see this review anyway. So I'm off to drown myself in soy until my opinion is considered valid. See you in the next one.
Fly free, free to queen for loud, fly free. Let every queen show that you're proud.